Good evening, colleagues, and welcome to UNISON's campaign event this evening. This is one of there were a number of events happening in your local area over the next few weeks as we go through the ballot and preparations for schools. I just want to say first, or just some introductions, and I want to just say a wee bit about the dispute and where we are, and then I'm going to invite some colleagues to come in. So I'd like to introduce first of all Ines Kirk, who is one of the vice chairs of the Local Government Committee. Lily Macer, who's the Scottish Secretary, and Joanna Baxter, the Head of Local Government, and myself, Mark Ferguson, I'm the Chair of the Scottish Local Government Committee. I just want to say, first of all, colleagues, I know that, and thank you for your patience. The employer has been a bit more obstructive than they normally are in discussions, and we are a bit further down the road than we would like to be. But next week, we'll have colleagues in Stirling and in Perth and Kinross taking industrial action, waste workers on our behalf, and hopefully causing some disruption to the World Cycling event that's taking place in Glasgow to give some focus to the cause for local government workers. I also want to say that we will then be proceeding to a ballot, which is underway at the moment, hopefully taking industrial action around September in schools, and Joanna will give you a bit more detail about that in school workers. As a fellow local government worker, I understand and appreciate the work that you do every single day. And the employer thought this time that they could just make a kind of halfway house offer and that they think the membership's in a position where they were just going to accept it. And clearly you demonstrated in that digital ballot that that wasn't the case. It was overwhelming return and an overwhelming rejection of the employer's offer. And that gives us a position of strength in terms of going back to the employer. Even the way the employer presented that offer was shameful because the figures they quoted were not in-year value figures. They were end-of-year value figures. So they tried to even dupe the workforce in terms of what they were offering and what they were saying. The behaviour of the employer has been absolutely shameful. And we've raised this with leaders across Scotland because clearly the employer's telling us they're saying that the funding isn't within local government to fund an additional amount onto this offer. However, they've tried to block at every turn our ability to go to the Scottish Government to seek additional funding. Other areas of the public sector have received higher wage offers or higher pay offers, and we believe that local government workers should also be treated exactly the same. We deliver essential and critical services in our community. We educate our children, we bury our dead, we care for our vulnerable, our elderly, we educate our children and our young adults. We've got a whole range of services we provide, and our waste collection and everything that takes place in local government. Without it, our communities couldn't function. And that is why this is important that we get returns in this ballot. I just want to say something about the Trade Union Act. This ballot has to be a postal ballot by law. This is what the Tory government has put upon us. They've put legislation in that requires us to ballot, to carry out a postal ballot, which makes it very difficult. And that's why you need to watch for your purple envelope coming through your door in schools, and you need to return them. They also put restrictions in terms of how we can take action. So we need a 50% return minimum in each of the ballots that we're undertaking in order for us to be able to take action. Now, the more of us, the better we get in terms of getting the return. The better the return, the better the position it puts us in to negotiate on your behalf and try and get you a better offer. You know, there's trade unions in the past have said the best action you can take is the action you don't have to take because you show your strength in terms of the ballot returns, and that's what we need to achieve because we know the money's there. We know the money is there to fund a decent pay rise for you, and that's what we are arguing for in their discussions with the employer. There's other restrictions that the Tories put on us in terms of the Trade Union Act, and they curtail the way in which we communicate with you, the things that we can tell you. But what I can say to you very clearly is that we will absolutely be behind you. We will support you financially to take this action, and we will be there at every step of the journey. Colleagues, ballot papers were only issued on Monday, and it'll be a few days before those ballot papers will actually start dropping through your doors. So don't worry if you haven't got it yet. It's a bit early to start panicking. But what I would say to you, if you haven't received your ballot paper, and Joanna will give you deadline the times for that, then we will certainly try to support you in getting that paper to you so that you can vote in time. So don't worry about that too much at this moment in time, because the postal delivery service, is under a lot of strain, as you know, and we wouldn't expect ballot papers to have arrived by today, certainly no in Scotland. So don't worry too much about that. Colleagues, I want to thank you for the support and the faith that you put into your union, and we will be there to support your branches, our activists on the ground who are volunteers who do this, over and above their work, and we'll be there to take lead and to show you how to demonstrate and how to organise and ready in preparation for our industrial action, because only that will deliver an improved offer. But you must return your ballot paper. My final plea to you, even if you don't support the action, even if you don't support it, but for whatever reason, return your ballot paper. Make sure that your voice is heard in this ballot so that we get a picture of what is happening in our membership. This is your time to tell your union what you think and how you think we should proceed. So regardless of your view, of course I would like you to vote yes, but what I said, if you don't support that approach, let us know through that ballot box, that postal box. That's what needs to happen, through your purple envelope, and let us know. So the first person I'm going to bring in tonight is Joanna Baxter, the head of local government, who's going to cover aspects of the dispute. Put your comments into the chat. We'll try and find out where they are, and we'll try and respond to them tonight. Joanna.
Thank you so much, Mark, and thank you to everybody who has joined us this evening. Just want to reiterate what Mark's just said in terms of returning your ballot paper is absolutely vital. We know for a fact that the employer is waiting to see whether you are prepared to take action before they put forward an improved offer or not. So it's vital that we show them that we have a strength of opinion amongst our membership that requires them to improve the offer before us. So that's my plea to you as well. If you can return your ballot, whichever way you wish to vote. So the ballot papers started to be issued, sent out from Civica on Monday, the 31st, and we need to receive your ballot papers by 10 a.m. on Friday, the 25th of August. So realistically, you need to have it in the post a couple of days before that. Now, COSLA leaders meet on the 25th of August, and I already know that they will be waiting in their meeting, poised to see where we get mandates to take industrial action and whether that means they have to improve their offer. And of course, we want to demonstrate that they have to. Now, we're balloting members who work in schools. That includes early years members where the early years centre is either in a school or co-located with a school. And the reason we're balloting members in schools is because, unfortunately, that is a key area, occupational group, for us to be able to pull the Scottish Government into these discussions and impress upon them the need for them to put additional money into getting an improved pay offer. So as Mark says, your ballot paper is coming in a bright purple envelope. So hopefully you won't miss it and it won't get lost in amongst the rest of your mail. But once you get it, it's really important that you open it, you vote immediately, and you return it as soon as you can. If you don't know where your nearest post box is, we, I'm sure, can get a link circulated. And if you're anything like me, you don't post much these days, but we will do everything that we can to help you in terms of identifying where to post it and when it needs to be back. Now, if you retire, resign, or move jobs out of the balloted group during the ballot period, it's important that you let us know, because we will have to take you out of the ballot. Also, if your dog eats your ballot paper, it has happened before, then you can request a replacement ballot. And the phone number for all of those things is the same. The ballot helpline is 0800 0857 857. Let me repeat that. That's 0800 0857 857. And that hotline will be open from the 7th of August till the 21st of August. So if you need a replacement ballot paper, you've moved house, you need a reissue, or you resign, retire, move jobs out of the balloted groups, that's the number to call. Now, the more members that we have in UNISON, the stronger our voice at the negotiating table. So one of the most important things that you can do apart from voting and returning your ballot is recruiting your colleagues to join UNISON. We know that a huge number of people joined UNISON last year during our industrial action ballot. And we know that that certainly has had an impact in terms of the employer's views about the strength of our voice around that negotiating table. So you can recruit members. If your colleagues want to join and get a vote in our ballots, then they just need to join before the 21st of August, and they will be balloted with everybody else. So if there are any questions that we can help with, then don't hesitate to contact your local branch or post something in the chat just now. We'll do our best to answer it. And I would just say as well, if you're not in one of the balloted groups, those members in the balloted groups need your support and solidarity, because if they vote to take action, they will be taking action on behalf of all local government workers. This is for everybody. So you can drop by one of the picket lines that we'll have next week in Stirling or Perth and Kinross. You can take those striking workers a cuppa, beep your horn, show some solidarity. And if you are in one of the balloted groups, one of the ways you can encourage your colleagues to return their ballot papers is to do a postbox selfie. Just post your ballot paper back and do a selfie whilst you're doing it, and it just encourages other people to post their ballots back as well. So you know what? We did it last year, folks. It was your votes that clearly demonstrated you wanted to take action over the employer's treatment of you and your pay that forced their hand. So we know we can do it. Let's do it again, and let's get out there and make this a success. We'll do everything that we can to help you with that. Just make sure you get your ballots back.
Thank you, Joanna. And just to plug that tomorrow at the Donald Dewar statue in Glasgow, there'll be a rally to support the striking workers who are taking action on your behalf. So please come along if you can at 12 noon tomorrow at the Donald Dewar statue and join that rally and hear the speeches. It's important. So try and get along there if you can. I'm going to invite Lillian Mason now, the Scottish Secretary. Nearly said you just newly appointed Scottish Secretary on Tuesday, so previously convener. Welcome, Lillian, and ask you to address our colleagues. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Mark, Joanna and Ines. Firstly, I want to pay tribute to local government workers, but also to pay tribute to colleagues on this call, your chairing team and your head of local government. Mark, Ines and Lorraine Thompson and Joanna, as your head of local government, have done a fantastic job to make sure that this ballot is a huge success. And me as Scottish Secretary will do everything that I need to do to make sure the resources are there. As Mark said, newly appointed Scottish Secretary for UNISON Scotland, and absolutely proud and privileged to be in this position. This is day 2. So it can't be that bad because I came back yesterday after day 1. But seriously, folks, the whole union, the whole of UNISON Scotland, the whole of our trade union, millions of workers across the public sector are watching, waiting, and 100% behind you. anything that I can do to make sure that this is a success and that we achieve the thresholds that have been explained to you, then it is within my remit to make sure that that is in place. Local government workers, you on this call, are the glue that holds the fabric of our society together. As Mark said, you're there at the birth, you're there during their schooling, you're there at the nursery level, you're there throughout the years, and you're even there when people die at the most vulnerable parts in their life journey. It's local government workers that are there to carry our society through that. So when we're asking you to withdraw your labour, to make Scottish Government and to make your employers sit up and take notice, then it's an important, and we know the important part that we're asking you to do. This is about fairness, it's about respect, and it's also about recognition. We know where we are in terms of inflation, huge numbers, over 10%, and the offers that have been given to public sector workers, the advisory offers that have been given to public sector workers, put you into poverty pay. And we, as a trade union, will not stand for that. We are 100% behind this dispute. We are 100% behind you as local government workers, activists and branches, making sure that we get that ballot threshold and that turnout delivered. It is hugely important. As colleagues have said on this call, your voice matters. So we need to hear from you, and we need your direction, and you need to engage with us so that we hear that. So return your ballot paper, get involved in the dispute. If you're not a targeted group, if you're not a local government worker, if you're a public sector worker, we want you on those picket lines. We want your voices heard on those picket lines. We need to make sure that the Scottish Government and your employers know that UNISON's serious and means business, and that we will not stop until our local government workers get that respect, get that recognition, and are valued for the contribution they make to society. So this is how important this is for me as your Scottish Secretary. On this call this evening, making sure that people understand that the full force of Unison Scotland is 100% behind you. Anything, I'm saying anything that I can do personally, anything that we can do collectively as a region in Scotland, as Scottish region, to make sure that this strike is a success. Because if you don't smash those thresholds, then the Scottish Government and the employers will see a weakness, will see a lack of strength, and will use that to make sure that you, this year, next year, and the year after, don't get the recognition, the reward, and the fairness that you deserve. So my message to the Scottish Government and the employers: get round the table, negotiate with our negotiators, give public sector workers, give local government workers the fairness, the respect and the value that they deserve, and make sure we get an improved offer. My message to you as members, activists and branches: get behind this, get your voice heard, return your ballot, and make sure that our strength, our collective strength, delivers across local government in Scotland. Thanks very much for listening, and thanks Mark, thanks Joanna, Ines and Lorraine for the commitment and support that you give our local government committee.
Thank you very much, Lorraine. I'm just going to cover some of the questions that's come in, so I'll cover some of them. Joanna will do some and I'll cover some. But I mean, Lorraine sends a very important message, I think, about the role of local government, and the fact is that we need to maintain a position of strength, because if we don't, the Scottish Government and COSLA will see that weakness and they'll exploit it further. And remember, local government sets the scene for so many other areas in the third and private sector, particularly the third sector. So it's important that we continue to maintain that strength, that unity, and demonstrate that we can take action to improve pay officers. It's shocking that we've got to, but we need to maintain that strong position. So I'll cover a couple of questions. We've had a question from Adam Hind, who's just a new member a month ago. Yes, you'll be included in the ballot. So you will be welcome, Adam, at Unison, and hopefully you'll receive your ballot paper shortly. The purple envelope, get it returned as soon as possible. The earlier the better. A couple of things. Fiona asked about, there was talks with COSLA today. There was talks with COSLA today. Myself, Ines and Joanna were in those talks. What we managed to secure was a joint trade union position, that we need to, that offer's unacceptable. We need improvements, and particularly at the bottom, of our pay spines where the majority of our members are, that needs to be addressed. And we need to address issues in the middle ground because their pay has been falling behind as well for some time. So we've made all of those points to the employer. We challenged the employer's position, no allowance to go to Scottish Government to seek additional funding. They were very nervous, I would say, very uncomfortable in some of the points that we made and the questions that we asked. And we also said to them that, some leaders turned up the last time when they did not to go to the Scottish Government and explain their position. But the ones who decided to vote against going to the Scottish Government, not one of them showed face, either then or now, to come and explain their reasons why. And at the end of the day, when they say it's not just about the payoff for this year, there's recurring costs. Well, they've just secured a deal with under the very House agreement with the Scottish Government, COSLA, so they should have factored that in those discussions. There is a freeing up in that agreement, the ring fencing of money to local government, so there's plenty there to work on, and we're asking them to dig deep and to fund local government appropriately. We also have some questions around strike pay. So as I said to you, the Trade Union Act does limit what we can say publicly and what we can, the way that we communicate about strike pay. We can tell the strike pay arrangements for those workers who are taking action next week. Your branches will be in touch with you very shortly to explain how strike pay arrangements will work, because that action's confirmed. When we get the results of this ballot, we will be able to tell members, what the strike pay arrangements. You will be financially supported to take this industrial action on behalf of yourself and your colleagues. So I hope you can read into that what it means, and your branches will be able to provide some more additional information. But as I say, the important thing is that your union understands it. We understand what you're being asked to do. You've been selected because you're a predominant group. Also, there's direct links to the Scottish Government, and that's why we know that you have the position of strength to force the Scottish Government to the table. They'll not be able to ignore us. And given that there's a by-election happening very shortly, around about the time that you might be taking action, I'm sure they'll be a bit more focused as well, that they will come back into those talks. Somebody's asked about picket lines. There will be picket lines in Stirling and Perth, and your branches locally will be able to tell you where they are. The information will be provided locally, for those. There is, of course, limits to picket lines, but of course there'll be the branches will be organising other things that people can attend or show their support. I've seen some wonderful bin lid stickers being produced in Stirling that's going to be on bins saying why the workers are taking action and on behalf of who. So they're very good, and they'll be out there so the public can, if you're in that area, you'll be able to support that and contacting the branch. Hopefully we can get it to you. The other picket lines, we don't. The bit of the schools ballot we're in is we're balloting for action. What we need to do is to get the mandates for action. So you need to return your purple envelope ballot papers as soon as possible, and then what will happen when we get closer, when we get the mandates back, hopefully universally across Scotland, we'll coordinate with other trade unions the days of strike action, and you'll be notified in your area how you can support your fellow colleagues. There'll be many ways that you can support, so contacting politicians, letting them know how you feel about the situation. You'll be able to tell the public about how you feel, and you'll have the ability to even helpfully financially contribute to help support your colleagues who are taking action. But see, sometimes just going down and thanking the colleagues who are taking action is good as well. I think that's a key thing to show that solidarity and to build that strength. I just want to make UNISON statistics, where almost 80% of our members are women, and the majority of them are in the low pay brackets. So that's why to UNISON these things, this is important. And the group that we're balloting in UNISON are predominant women in those groups. So this is your chance to stand up, and your union will provide the support you need to take that action. The main thing is you return your ballot paper, and then we'll discuss in more detail. I can't tell you the full strike arrangements on here because the law doesn't allow us to do so. But you believe me, we know what you need, we know how to support you, and we will do that. Joanna, I'm going to hand over to you about the claim that's been made. A few questions on that, and I'll go through the other questions. Thanks.
Okay, no bother. So the joint trade unions agreed a claim in January. It was submitted to COSLA in January. And as I say, it was agreed between all three trade unions, and that called for an increase of 12% or £4,000, whichever is the greater, and that was to all spinal column points. An underpinning minimum rate of pay of £15 an hour, an increase to the mileage rate to ensure parity with NHS colleagues, a no compulsory redundancy agreement, a review of professional fees which go beyond the SSC fees that we secured last year, and early completion of the review on a no detriment reduction of the working week, no less than parity with other local government bargaining groups, and we had asked for early commencement of negotiations in order that we might meet the implementation date of the 1st of April. And clearly that hasn't been met, but through no fault of ours, I have to say. And what the employer is offering, there's only been one offer, is a 5% increase from the 1st of April, plus an additional amount on the 1st of January. And that additional amount depends on where you are in the pay spine. So an additional 45 pence for spinal column points 2 to 18, which is those earning up to £20,933. An additional 2.5% for those earning between 20,933 and 28,862, and an additional 1.5% for those between 28,862 and 38,585, and 1% for those on spinal column point 65 and above. It's a complex offer. I think what we need to stress is that COSLA are presenting this in bigger percentage figures because they are quoting the cumulative increase that you would get at the end of the financial year. So we've seen flyers that have been circulated which are somewhat misleading. What you're being offered from the 1st of April is 5% plus something else on the 1st of January, depending on where you are. Inflation still over 10%. We know that the cost of food prices is much higher than that. They've risen at a much higher rate than that. Electricity bills have risen at a much higher rate than that. The cost of living pressure that you're experiencing, it goes beyond the overall rate of inflation. It doesn't take account of the pressure on your pockets right now. And we've emphasised to the employer the increased hardship that people will be suffering as a result of the continued delay in getting a reasonable offer. We made those points to them today. We did not get a revised or improved offer today. We know the employer is waiting to see the strength of feeling from our members before they decide whether to improve their offer or not. So that's why it's really important that you return your ballot papers. And I think there was one additional question on, there was questions about when you'll receive your ballot. They started to be sent out on Monday. They'll get to you as soon as the Royal Mail have got to your postal address. So hopefully that will be in the next couple of days. If, when the ballot hotline opens on the 7th of August, you still haven't received your ballot, you can ask for a reissue. It's also worth just checking that your contact details are up to date. Very often people forget to tell us that they've moved home. And sometimes that means that ballot papers are sent to the home address we have on the system, and we need to send fresh ones to your new address. So just double check that those things are okay if you haven't received it by the 7th of August. But wait until then, just to give the post a few days. And we've got questions about nursery schools. We are balloting early years members where those nurseries or early years centres are located within a school or co-located at the same location as a school, not standalone nurseries. And obviously that's because we didn't want people who were also working within a school area having to cross their own union's picket line. That's the reason for that. So hopefully that clears that up. But if you do have further questions about that, then do contact your local branch and they will be able to answer them.
Okay, thanks, Joanna. I mean, just to say in terms of that, colleagues, that this is a joint trade union strategy. So selecting the groups, the ballot that's taking place is relatively new way of balloting in a national ballot. So we have discussions with the joint trade unions and we agree the groups in the areas that we're going to ballot. So we've been able to do that. I just want to cover a couple of other things that we've had come through questions, not specifically ballot related, but very important just the same. So a number of colleagues online have been raising issues around assaults in schools and early years centres, but something that we've been well aware of and something that's been reported to have increased since COVID, that the situation has become a lot worse. Lorraine Thompson heads up our Education Issues Group. They've embarked on a campaign, our Education Issues Group, looking at this. There's surveys out, they're looking at, there's a campaign pack in branches to start working in this area and collating information and using the legislation where appropriate and raising claims where appropriate to try and for the employer to take this seriously and address these matters. Nobody gets paid to come be assaulted at work. There's no job anywhere where that's acceptable. And it's the employer has to take steps to mitigate against that, colleagues. So we are aware of it. There is a campaign underway. If you just give your branch a call and ask them what they're doing about the assaults in schools, because they will be aware of it. A couple of colleagues have raised about mental health, and this is something that it's been an issue for a long time in local government and other public sector areas, but even more so since COVID. And the impact that has had in the way that we're working, the way that we're operating, our terms and conditions, the way they are being exploited, are all matters of importance that the committee is working on. And we're well aware of it. So we have done a lot of work around mental health. There's a lot of things on our websites, and we're raising it constantly with the employer and trying to look at ways to mitigate and to assist workers where possible. I saw a comment there about the minimum service bill. Will it be enforced? We don't expect it to impact on this ballot as the legal position that we've been advised. So the main thing is get your ballot papers back. That's the key thing there. I'll just check if there's anything else. Okay, I'm going to ask, Ines is the chair of our campaigns group. For the subgroup that looks after the campaign that we're in. So Ines is quite good at coming kind of enforcing what we're asking you to do. So I'm going to ask Ines to say a few words, and then if there's any other questions, put them in. We'll try and address them, colleagues. And you go, Ines.
Hi, colleagues. Hi. I'm going to apologise in advance if I turn a bit juddery. My system's playing up today, so if I disappear, please don't think I've given up on you all. We really want the message to get out there that you vote. You're a member of a trade union, you need to vote. And so we need to get that message out there. We have got some graphics and things. And if you see things on Facebook, please share them. Share them with your friends and colleagues. They will know people. We need to make sure if you're in the workplace, I know it's unfortunate at the moment that many of you aren't in the workplace because of your summer holidays, But even when you're out and about and you come across somebody that you work with or you know works in the council, ask them, have you seen the ballot? Have you seen the purple envelope? Have you sent it back? I know it's something that I cannot emphasize so much. We need to get the story out there. It has to be out there. If you don't, I'm going to nag again, and I really apologize for this. I hate nagging at people, but it's my raison d'etre. It's my reason for living, is really to make sure that those ballots are returned. Even if you don't like strike action, if you think strike action is wrong, send your ballot paper back and say that. You have to do that, because by not sending your ballot paper back, you're telling the employer you don't care. You don't care what you get paid. That's what they read it as. So not just yourself, but your friends and colleagues. We will get lots of graphics out there. If you see a poster, stick it up on the wall. If you see something you think's interesting, put it up there, share it out. We are sharing lots of information with our colleagues around UNISON, and they will be sharing things. Share it, whether it's on whatever Twitter is now, because it keeps changing names, X or something like that, isn't it? Get that out there. If you see something on Instagram, share it on the gram. You know, do as much as you can to get stuff out there. If you live in Stirling, get the sticker on your bins. Show people that you're supporting your waste workers. Let's get the information out there. Make sure that everybody is there. We will be communicating with you as much as we can. Every branch is doing the best they can with, I will say, some of our systems have been a little bit temperamental lately. I think that's a polite way of doing it. But we are trying to get information out to you as much as possible. Check your spam folders on your email, because quite often, unfortunately, they're filtered out if it says do not reply, something like that. But make sure, because we care about absolutely every single one of you. We can't be everywhere all the time, but you can be our eyes and ears. You can share that information for us. You can get there. So please, we only ever do what you want us to do. So you need to tell us what you want. We'll do that. And we have to respect how you vote. So please, I'll stop nagging now. I'll shut up.
Thank you, Ines, and thanks for the nagging. As one of the vice chairs, I get nagged quite a lot, so it's nice that she's giving other people nagging others. Colleagues, can I just say that there's been a comment about who's involved? So it's schools and those co-located with schools who are delivering education services, early years or nurseries. So all of those are in scope. We are balloting by far the majority of members in this ballot. As I said, the reason that not everybody's been balloted is because of the thresholds. We've designed this type of balloting to be targeted, to try and be able to take industrial action. And it's important that people take part in that ballot. I can't stress that enough. That's the key thing, is to return that ballot paper. To stop the Tories being able to try and circumvent our ability to demonstrate our legal rights to take action, you know, and that's what they're doing. We've seen it across many sectors in the way that they've been behaving. So it's important to return the ballot paper. So it's a targeted approach to industrial action. So those workers who are being balloted and will take action are doing it on behalf of everybody else, and that's why we need to show those workers support. Everybody's part of the industrial action. It's just what part you're playing. Some will be taking industrial strike action. Others will be asked to demonstrate, to support, to financially contribute, to make sure that those workers can sustain that action which is required to get an improved offer that you, the member, finds acceptable. Myself and Ines on here, we're two local government workers, so we fully appreciate our pay is affected by this as well. So, you know, we understand, and I've seen comments, you know, from colleagues who have been in local public services for a long time saying their pay is less value now than it was 32 years ago. Somebody said, you're absolutely right. That is exactly the case. Our wages have been falling further and further behind, and we need to get that redressed. So, colleagues, I hope that the message is very clear from us tonight. Thank you to our speakers, to Joanna Baxter and to Lillian Mesa, and to Ines, our Vice Chair. I hope I've covered all the comments. I don't see any other ones coming through. But as I say, Joanna, is there something?
I think there was just one, Mark,
Okay.
which came in, which was, will schools have to close? And I think the answer to that is that lies in the decision of the employer. Schools won't have to close if they come back with an improved offer. They might have to close. If they don't, and you vote to take action, nobody wants us to get to the position where schools have to close, but whether they do or not lies in the hands of COSLA and the Scottish Government. So all I'd say to you is they are waiting to see what you say in these ballots. So make your voice heard.
Yeah. And just one final, somebody just came through a comment there asking about our catering involved. Absolutely. These are essential services in delivering education. So, all of the schools, all UNISON members in a school delivering education, which includes all the support services and early years and nursery staff who are co-located or in the school, are included in the ballot. Because all of you are a part of delivering education and equally as valuable. So, yeah, you're absolutely included. And I just want to say, colleagues, I urge you to vote yes. I do urge you to vote yes, and don't let concern yourself about taking strike action on the financial impact. The union is there. We're here to support you to be able to take that action. So please, and look what we achieved last year. I mean, we started off at £120 million put into pay. We ended up with over 600 million. When the employer and Scottish Government told us there was no extra money, we secured £500 million extra went into the pay packets for our members. So don't let them tell us that the money's not there or it can't be found. Myself and Joanna and others went along to meet the Deputy First Minister and the First Minister, and they were desperate to get that dispute ended, to settle. We got more than £500 million into our pay packets, more than was on the table when we were discussing with COSLA. So it can be done. It can be done with the strength that you give us through the ballot box. This is your time to stand up and Ines made a value point. Go into your workplaces. Don't be afraid to ask your colleagues if you returned your ballot paper, get it back, and join UNISON, because the more members we have, the stronger we are. And as our lead negotiator, along with Ines and Lorraine and Stephen Larkin and Joanna, going in with that strength to negotiations is a very different place to get in with a weak position, I can assure you. And it was that strength last year that delivered, and hopefully building last year's success and get you a pay offer that you deserve. So I'm going to bring tonight to an end. So thank you very much, everybody. If we haven't answered any of your questions, contact your branch or drop us a wee note on Facebook and we'll try and respond to you. So thank you to our speakers. Thank you to you for joining us. And let's get those purple envelopes. Return your ballot paper, regardless of what your view is. But I urge you to vote yes. Thank you very much, colleagues.